Commander Sarah Chen stood motionless before the wall of screens, each displaying the same impossible image. Massive ships hovering over major cities across the globe. They had appeared without warning 36 hours ago, materializing from what scientists were calling dimensional fold points in Earth's orbit. Still no response to our communications, she asked, her calm voice betraying none of the fear churning in her stomach. Lieutenant Rodriguez shook his head. Nothing, Commander. They're receiving our signals. We can verify that much. But they're choosing not to answer. The Pentagon War Room hummed with tense activity as the world's most powerful military found itself rendered effectively powerless. Satellite imagery showed the alien vessels measured nearly 2 miles in length, their dark hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light, creating the impression of shadows cut into the sky itself. "They're moving," someone called out. On screen, panels on the underside of each ship began to slide open. Rather than the weapons everyone feared, thousands of small objects descended toward Earth's surface. "Drones?" General Wallace asked from behind Chen. "No, sir," she replied, studying the enhanced imagery. "I think they're coming down to introduce themselves." Within the hour, the objects were confirmed as transport vessels carrying the first extraterrestrial beings humanity would ever meet face to face. They landed simultaneously in 50 major cities, disgorging their passengers into hastily established military cordons. Chen was among the delegation sent to meet them in Washington, D.C. Nothing had prepared her for the reality of the Kralaxians. They stood nearly 12 feet tall, their bodies protected by natural exoskeletons that seemed to shimmer between metallic and organic. Their 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, moved independently, taking in everything at once. Most disconcerting were their hands, 3-fingered appendages that moved with unsettling precision, capable of both delicate manipulation and, as they soon demonstrated, frightening strength. "Your species designates this planet as Earth," the lead alien stated rather than asked, its voice emanating from a translator device at what passed for its throat. The sound was perfectly modulated, devoid of emotion. "You will now be integrated into the Kralaxian Empire as Holding World 2814. The human delegation exchanged glances. Secretary General Okafor stepped forward. "We welcome peaceful contact, but Earth is a sovereign world. We're not seeking to be integrated." The Kralaxian's upper eyes narrowed slightly, the only indication it registered Okafor's response at all. "Your technological development is early stage. Your physical capabilities are minimal. Your resources, however, are optimal for extraction." It gestured toward its companions. "Resistance would be ineffective and inefficient." To demonstrate, one of the aliens casually approached a military vehicle, grasped its bumper, and effortlessly lifted the front end off the ground with a single hand. "We allow 1 standard month for preparation. Integration will then commence regardless of your cooperation level." Chen noticed something as the aliens delivered their ultimatum. Despite their overwhelming physical presence, they seemed uncomfortable in Earth's environment. Their breathing equipment made subtle adjustments every few minutes. Their movements, while powerful, appeared slightly labored in Earth's gravity. When the delegation returned to the Pentagon, panic had already set in among world leaders. "They've disabled our military satellites," General Wallace reported. "Our nuclear capabilities are offline. They did it without firing a single shot. Conventional warfare would be suicide," Chen stated, reviewing footage of the aliens. "But I noticed something. They're not completely comfortable here. Something about our environment taxes them. That hardly matters when they can crush us without breaking a sweat," Rodriguez countered. Chen shook her head. "Every organism has limitations, even them." When the president appointed her to head the hastily formed United Defense Force, Chen already knew their approach couldn't mirror any military strategy from human history. In her first meeting with her command staff, she laid out the only viable path forward. "We don't fight them where they're strong," she said, looking each officer in the eye. "We study them. We learn everything about their biology, their technology, their psychology. We appear to comply while gathering intelligence. She pulled up images of the Kralaxians' breathing apparatus. They have weaknesses. We just haven't discovered them all yet. And when we do? Asked Colonel Takeda. Chen's expression hardened with determination. Then we show them that underestimating humanity will be the last mistake they ever make. Dr. Marcus Okonkwo hadn't slept in nearly 36 hours. The xenobiologist hunched over his microscope, comparing tissue samples while the air conditioning in his underground laboratory struggled against the heat generated by overworked equipment. The Resistance had established this facility beneath an abandoned subway station in Chicago, converting maintenance tunnels into a sprawling research complex. "Tell me you have something," Commander Chen said as she entered, her uniform rumpled from a transatlantic flight. Okonkwo straightened, rubbing his eyes. "I do, and it's fascinating." He gestured to the primary display screen. "This is Kralaxian cellular structure compared to human. Notice anything?" Chen studied the images. Their cells are larger, more complex. Precisely. They're metabolic powerhouses, which explains their strength and size. But that comes with costs. He pulled up comparison charts. Their energy requirements are enormous. They need to consume approximately 4 times what a human does, relative to body mass, and their recovery periods are much longer. So they're stronger, but with less endurance, Chen mused. Much less, and there's more. Okonkwo pulled up environmental data collected by Resistance operatives worldwide. They're struggling with Earth's atmospheric variation. They evolved on a world with minimal environmental fluctuation. Our planet's changing pressures, humidity levels, and temperature ranges tax their systems. The sample they were examining had been obtained 3 days earlier, when a Resistance member posing as a collaborator had accidentally bumped into a Kralaxian delegate, secretly jabbing it with a specialized collection device disguised as a pen. The tiny sample had provided invaluable insights. "What about their sensory systems?" Chen asked. Okonkwo's face lit up. "That's where it gets interesting. Their visual acuity is superior to ours, but their auditory processing is completely different." He pulled up a frequency analysis. They're overwhelmed by certain high-range frequencies that barely register to human ears. It's like sensory overload. A communications specialist burst into the lab, her expression urgent. "Commander, you need to see this." Reports coming in from Resistance cells in Jakarta, Nairobi, and Santiago. The screens filled with footage from around the world. In Jakarta, Kralaxians were rotating shifts every 4 hours, visibly struggling with the tropical humidity. In Nairobi, they had established climate-controlled environments, rarely venturing into the heat. In Santiago, they'd completely abandoned a planned mining operation in the mountains, apparently unable to function effectively at high altitude. They're not adapted to Earth's environmental diversity, Chen realized. They've never needed to be adaptable because they've always been the strongest. And that's their weakness, Okonkwo concluded. Humans have survived in every environment on Earth. We've endured ice ages and thrived in deserts. We've conquered mountains and ocean depths. Chen's mind raced with possibilities. We need to expand recruitment. Not just military personnel. We need people with diverse backgrounds and skills. Engineers, athletes, musicians, hunters, climbers. "Why musicians?" asked the communications specialist. "Because different perspectives yield different solutions," Chen replied. "The Kralaxians are technologically advanced, but homogeneous in their thinking. Our diversity is our strength." Within days, the Resistance established cells organized around specific human advantages. In Mumbai, marathon runners formed endurance teams that could operate continuously for periods that would exhaust the aliens. In Quebec, cold weather specialists developed tactics exploiting the invaders' poor temperature regulation. In Rio, free climbers mapped routes through urban environments the bulky aliens couldn't navigate. At a secure mountain facility in Switzerland, Chen addressed representatives from global Resistance cells via encrypted channels. "The Kralaxians see us as primitive and weak," she told them. They measure strength only in terms of technology and physical power, but strength takes many forms. She displayed Okonkwo's research findings. They've never faced an adversary like humanity. We adapt. We endure. We find ways to survive against impossible odds. It's written into our DNA. A resistance leader from Kenya spoke up. They still have overwhelming technological superiority. How do we overcome that? Chen's expression hardened with determination. The same way humans have always overcome superior forces, we change the rules of engagement. We don't fight as they expect us to fight. We create a battlefield where their advantages become liabilities. She pulled up a global map marked with Kralaxian command centers, and we've just identified their first vulnerability. 3 minutes until patrol, whispered Raj Patel, his body pressed against the concrete wall of the drainage tunnel. Once a professional parkour athlete with millions of social media followers, he now led one of the Resistance's most effective strike teams. 6 people crouched in the darkness behind him, each carrying specialized equipment in weatherproof backpacks. They had trained for weeks for this mission, disabling the cooling systems at the Kralaxian Command Center in Mumbai. Raj checked his watch. Remember, they can't follow where we'll go. Move exactly as we practiced. When the patrol passed, Raj led his team through a labyrinthine network of maintenance tunnels, ventilation shafts, and narrow gaps between buildings, pathways mapped specifically because they were too confined for the massive aliens to navigate. The humans moved with practiced efficiency, using techniques that combined elements of parkour, cave exploration, and military infiltration. We're beneath the primary coolant exchange, Raj whispered when they reached their target. Zhang, you're up. A young engineer removed several devices from her pack, signal jammers designed to create a blind spot in Kralaxian security systems. Once activated, the team quickly accessed the coolant pipes and installed the sabotage devices Dr. Okonkwo had designed. Microscopic organisms engineered to multiply rapidly in the Kralaxian's specialized cooling fluid. Insertion complete, Zhang confirmed. Effects should begin within 12 hours. Exfiltration Route 2, Raj ordered, leading them through an even narrower set of passages that emerged 3 blocks away. Similar operations occurred simultaneously across the globe. In Sao Paulo, resistance fighters compromised a resource processing facility. In Cairo, they sabotaged communications nodes. In Vancouver, they infiltrated a detention center and freed captured human scientists. The Kralaxians were bewildered. Their security scans showed no unauthorized entry, yet systems mysteriously malfunctioned. Equipment inexplicably deteriorated. Their carefully calculated occupation timelines began to slip. Commander Chen monitored these operations from the Resistance's primary command center, relocated weekly to avoid detection. The facility currently occupied an abandoned mine shaft in the Rocky Mountains. The Mumbai team reports success, her communications officer announced. Chen nodded with satisfaction. Add it to the board. A digital map displayed successful operations as tiny green lights against the darkness of occupation. The pattern was becoming clear. Humanity was slowly degrading the Kralaxian infrastructure while avoiding direct confrontation. They're adapting, Colonel Takeda warned, studying recent intelligence. Increasing automated security, reducing reliance on physical patrols. Expected, Chen replied. But their technology has weaknesses too. Without regular maintenance, systems degrade. They can't be everywhere at once. The Resistance had discovered another advantage. The Kralaxians were overly dependent on their technology. Centuries of technological superiority had atrophied their capacity for improvisation. When systems failed, they struggled to implement alternative solutions. Humans, by contrast, had millennia of experience making do with limited resources. The Resistance communicated using methods the tech-dependent aliens overlooked. Morse code tapped through water pipes, whistling languages used by indigenous groups, even knitting patterns carrying encrypted messages passed by apparent civilians. Lieutenant Rodriguez entered the command center, his expression grave. "Commander, we've intercepted something you need to hear." He played a recorded transmission, captured by a resistance cell, that had compromised a Kralaxian communications relay in Argentina. The alien language had been translated by their linguistic team. "Preparation of holding World 2814 progresses despite native resistance," the emotionless voice stated. "The Titans require this world's water reserves within the standard cycle. Increase extraction efforts and neutralize resistance elements." Silence fell over the command center. "The Titans?" Chen finally asked. Rodriguez shook his head. "First reference we've intercepted. Appears to be their command structure or leadership. And they want our water," Tequita added grimly. Chen studied the global map, the reality of their situation sinking in. "This isn't just about occupation or resources. They're planning to strip our world entirely." "Sir, Mumbai Command Center reports Kralaxian forces are evacuating the facility," the communications officer interrupted. "Coolant system failure has rendered it uninhabitable by their physiological standards." A small victory, Chen thought, but the intercepted transmission changed everything. Weren't just fighting for freedom. They were fighting for Earth's very existence. "Accelerate all operations," she ordered. "And get me Dr. Okonkwo. We need to understand who these Titans are and what they're really planning for our world." Eliza Wright adjusted her translator badge and smoothed her collaborator uniform, fighting to control her breathing as she approached the gleaming archway of the Kralaxian Administrative Center in Sydney. 6 weeks into her deep cover assignment, she still felt a rush of fear every time she entered the alien stronghold. "Designation and function," demanded the security drone hovering at the entrance. "Right, Eliza. Human liaison, Archival Division," she replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The drone scanned her credentials and moved aside. "Proceed to your assigned section." Before the invasion, Eliza had been a professor of linguistic anthropology at the University of Melbourne. Now she was one of the Resistance's most valuable intelligence assets, a human collaborator with clearance to access Kralaxian historical and cultural archives. Her workstation was nestled among dozens of others in a vast, cathedral-like chamber where the aliens stored data on their conquests and territorial holdings. Her official job involved organizing information about Earth cultures to facilitate the occupation. Her actual mission was far more dangerous. "Right, human," a Kralaxian supervisor approached her station. "You will catalog additional historical conquest data today. Efficiency in your previous assignments has been noted." Eliza bowed her head slightly, a gesture of deference she had learned the aliens expected. "I am honored to serve the expansion." When the supervisor moved away, she began accessing the new files, her trained eye looking for patterns and connections, while she appeared to simply be performing her assigned duties. Hours later, in her small apartment, thoroughly swept for surveillance devices, Eliza connected to the Resistance's secure network through a system disguised as standard power fluctuations in the city grid. "I found something," she told Commander Chen through the encrypted channel. References to previous conquests. 27 civilizations before Earth, all harvested for resources. Chen's image on the secure tablet showed concern. Any indication of resistance, anyone who successfully fought back. Nothing explicit, but there's a recurring anomaly in the conquest records. Eliza pulled up translated documents. A civilization designated ASP-1126 caused unexpected resource allocation requirements during their integration. It's bureaucratic language, but I think it means they put up a significant fight. What happened to them? Eliza's expression darkened. Complete resource extraction. Their world is now classified as depleted holding zone. She highlighted another section of the translated text. But there's something else. A recurring symbol appears in every conquest record. She displayed the alien glyph. It translates roughly to tribute to the Watchers of Eternity. Dr. Okonkwo joined the call. "The Titans mentioned in the intercepted transmission." "Yes, and here's where it gets interesting." Eliza pulled up additional translations. The Kralaxians themselves appear to be a conquered species. They harvest worlds to provide resources to these titans who remain unseen. They're essentially middlemen in a larger imperial structure. That explains their methodical approach to occupation, Chen reasoned. They're following an established protocol they've used on dozens of worlds. Exactly. But there's more. Eliza lowered her voice, though she knew her apartment was secure. I found reference to Earth specifically being targeted for its exceptional biological diversity index. Okonkwo leaned forward. They're not just here for water. No, Eliza confirmed. The Titans didn't send the Kralaxians here primarily for water or minerals. According to these records, they're interested in Earth's biodiversity, specifically adaptable species. Like humans, Chen said quietly. The records suggest the Titans collect unique biological specimens from each world before complete resource extraction. Earth represents an unprecedented diversity jackpot. The implications settled heavily over the call. Humanity wasn't just fighting against occupation. They were livestock being assessed before slaughter. Have you found any information on these Titans? Chen asked. Weaknesses? Home world location? Very little. They're described in almost religious terms by the Kralaxians, beings of unimaginable advancement who ascended beyond physical form millennia ago. Eliza hesitated, but there's a curious detail. Direct contact with the Titans is extremely rare. Most conquered worlds never encounter them at all. Then why did that transmission suggest they're taking a direct interest in Earth? Okonkwo asked. Eliza's expression was grim as she translated the final document. Because our resistance is unprecedented. No species has ever maintained organized opposition this long after initial contact. We've become an anomaly, and the Titans are coming to investigate personally. The night sky over Santiago glowed with the eerie blue light of Kralaxian security barriers as Lieutenant Sofia Mendez checked her watch. 2 minutes to 0 hour. Her team of 12 resistance fighters huddled in the abandoned subway tunnel beneath the alien command center, each carrying what the resistance had dubbed Banshee devices, sound-based weapons targeting specific frequencies that disrupted Kralaxian neural pathways. Remember, Sophia whispered, we only have a 20-second window after activation before their automated systems compensate. Make them count. Dr. Okonkwo's voice crackled through their secure comms. All teams, stand by for final confirmation. Sewell is in position. Nairobi reports ready. Cairo standing by. Commander Chen's voice followed. Operation Achilles commences in 60 seconds. Good luck. The resistance had spent weeks preparing for this coordinated global strike. Intelligence gathered by Eliza Wright had identified a critical weakness in Kralaxian neurobiology. Their auditory processing systems were vulnerable to specific harmonic combinations that would incapacitate them without harming humans. 30 seconds, Sophia announced, distributing the activation keys. This would be the Resistance's first direct assault on Kralaxian forces. Until now, they had focused on sabotage and intelligence gathering. But with the Titans approaching, they needed to prove humans could fight back effectively. Activate, Chen ordered at precisely 200 hours. Sophia's team inserted their keys simultaneously, activating the Banshee devices. A subtle vibration passed through the ground as the devices emitted their precisely calibrated frequencies, inaudible to human ears, but devastating to Kralaxian neural systems. Above them, chaos erupted. Through ceiling-mounted cameras hacked by resistance techs, they watched as the towering aliens collapsed to their knees, their coordinated movements dissolving into disorientation. Security systems blared warnings, but the affected Kralaxians were unable to respond coherently. Phase 2, Sophia ordered. Half her team raced through the now-accessible service corridors, planting additional devices designed to degrade the command center's defensive capabilities. The other half downloaded critical intelligence from Kralaxian data cores. Similar scenes unfolded across 6 continents as resistance cells executed precisely timed attacks on key Kralaxian installations. In Kenya, resistance members led pursuing security drones on an exhausting chase through punishing terrain. knowing the Kralaxian controllers would collapse from metabolic strain long before the humans reached their limits. At Resistance headquarters, Chen watched the operation unfold on a global tactical display. Seoul reports success, her communications officer announced. Command center compromised, 17 high-value data cores secured. Nairobi has neutralized the resource extraction facility. Cairo reports 60% success, stronger security presence than anticipated. Chen nodded grimly. And Santiago? Still in progress, but the officer paused, listening to incoming transmissions. Confirmed success. Lieutenant Mendez reports all objectives achieved with minimal resistance casualties. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had struck back effectively against their oppressors. The coordinated operation had targeted not just command centers, but the Kralaxians' confidence in their supremacy. Aboard the Kralaxian flagship hovering above the Pacific Ocean, General Vrax surveyed the damage reports with growing rage. The Supreme Commander of the occupation force had never encountered such persistent resistance on any world. How do they keep fighting? He demanded of his lieutenants, smashing a holographic display. Their bodies are fragile, their technology primitive, yet they persist beyond all rational calculation. His second-in-command approached cautiously. The human resistance employs methods we did not anticipate. They exploit environmental factors and biological weaknesses rather than engaging our strengths directly. The unacceptable, Vrax snarled. Increase security protocols. Deploy additional forces to all primary installations. I want the resistance leadership identified and eliminated. There is another matter, his lieutenant added hesitantly. High Command requests detailed reports on the resistance activities for transmission to the Titans. Vrax went still. The Titans rarely took interest in individual conquest operations. Their direct attention was unprecedented. Prepare all available data on human resistance patterns, he ordered. The Titans must understand this is merely a temporary setback. The lieutenant hesitated again. High Command also transmits that the Titans have altered their approach vector. They will arrive within 14 planetary rotations. Vrax stared at the global map showing the locations of successful resistance attacks. For the first time in his long career of conquest, he felt something unfamiliar, doubt. In the resistance headquarters, Chen received word of increased Kralaxian activity worldwide. They're responding exactly as predicted, she told her command staff, doubling down on their strengths rather than addressing their vulnerabilities. Operation Achilles was successful, Colonel Takeda confirmed. But the Kralaxians still hold overwhelming military advantage. True, Chen agreed. But we've proven they can be hurt. More importantly, we've shown Earth how to fight back. What neither the humans nor the Kralaxians realized was that the Titans were watching the conflict with growing fascination. In the cold vastness between worlds, their massive vessel adjusted course, accelerating toward Earth. After millennia of routine conquests, they had encountered something unexpected, a species that refused to accept its fate. Commander Chen drew her sidearm in one fluid motion when the security perimeter alarm triggered. The Resistance safe house, a renovated bunker beneath an abandoned farm in rural Germany, was supposed to be undetectable. Breach in Sector 4, her security officer reported, bringing up surveillance feeds. Single intruder. Chen's blood ran cold as the camera revealed a towering Kralaxian figure approaching the hidden entrance with deliberate steps. More alarming was what the alien wasn't wearing. Its environmental suit was partially removed. Armor plates disengage. It's walking right through our sensor grid, Colonel Takeda observed in disbelief. It knows exactly where we are. Evacuation Protocol Alpha, Chen ordered. Priority data only. As her team scrambled to secure essential systems, the communication panel activated unexpectedly. I come alone, a Kralaxian voice stated through the speakers. If I wanted you dead, you would be. Chen exchanged glances with Takeda. This wasn't in any invasion playbook. I am Sub-Commander Krell, the alien continued. I represent a faction within the Kralaxian forces that believes another path is possible. 20 minutes later, after thorough scanning for tracking devices or weapons, the alien stood in the command center, towering over the humans, yet somehow appearing vulnerable with sections of its exoskeleton exposed. The deliberate removal of armor plating was unmistakably a gesture of non-aggression. "Why should we believe anything you say?" Chen demanded, keeping her weapon ready. "Because the Titans are coming," Krell replied simply. "And when they arrive, your species will face complete harvesting, as have dozens before you." "We already know about the Titans," Takeda countered. "You know of them. You do not know them." Krell's upper eyes narrowed. "No species that has encountered the Titans directly has survived to record the experience. Except yours," Chen noted. "We did not survive. We surrendered." Krell's normally modulated voice carried something the humans hadn't heard from any Kralaxian before: emotion. "Centuries ago, the Titans came to our world. Our resistance lasted 17 days. They turned our atmosphere toxic to demonstrate their power. Our leaders capitulated to save the remainder of our population, and became their conquest force," Chen concluded. "Their servants," Krell corrected. "We harvest worlds because the alternative is extinction." The Resistance command staff exchanged uneasy glances. This revelation aligned with the Laserite's intelligence findings, but hearing it confirmed by a Kralaxian was jarring. "Why approach us now?" Chen asked. "Because your species has done what we thought impossible." Krell activated a holographic display showing Operation Achilles. "You've maintained effective resistance despite technological inferiority. Some of us have watched your kind with growing interest." Chen studied the alien carefully. "You want to help us fight the Titans. I represent a small faction that believes an alliance might benefit both species." Krell's 4 eyes focused on Chen. "The Titans' power is not absolute. It only appears so because no one has challenged them effectively in millennia." Trust built slowly over the next hours as Krell shared intelligence on Kralaxian deployments, and more crucially, what little was known about the Titans themselves. The Laserite, hastily recalled from her deep cover assignment, proved invaluable in navigating the complex cultural subtleties. Her linguistic expertise allowed her to identify nuances in Krell's communication that suggested sincerity. Their social structure is hierarchical, but contains philosophical factions, she explained to Chen privately. Krell's terminology suggests a reformist movement that's existed covertly for generations. When Krell revealed the full extent of the Titans' capabilities, technology so advanced it manipulated fundamental forces of physics, even hardened resistance fighters felt hope faltering. During a tense strategy session, a young engineer who had lost her family in the initial invasion confronted the alien directly. "Why should we trust any of you?" she demanded, voice raw with emotion. Krell's response silenced the room. "Because unlike the Titans, who have forgotten what it means to evolve, your species reminds us of our own past, before we surrendered our adaptability for power." Chen recognized the moment for what it was, not just tactical opportunity but philosophical alignment. "We'll need proof of your commitment," she stated. "You will have it," Krell replied. "My faction can provide technological specifications that will allow you to enhance your Banshee devices to affect Titan neural systems." Takeda leaned toward Chen. "If this is genuine," she nodded, "we might have a chance." The alliance began tentatively that night, with joint planning sessions that combined Kralaxian technology with human ingenuity, creating hybrid systems neither could have developed alone. What none of them knew was that aboard the approaching Titan vessel, ancient intelligences were already calculating responses to this unprecedented development. For the first time in thousands of years of conquest, the Titans experienced an unfamiliar sensation: uncertainty. Earth's population watched in collective terror as the Titan vessel emerged from what Krell called dimensional fold space, just beyond the lunar orbit. Conventional satellites failed instantly, their systems overwhelmed by energy signatures never before recorded by human instruments. Civilians with telescopes reported a structure so vast it appeared less like a ship and more like a mobile world, a geometric nightmare of impossible angles that seemed to bend light around it. In the Resistance Command Center, now relocated to a hardened facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, communications worldwide went silent as unprecedented energy readings overwhelmed monitoring systems. All resistance cells report the same phenomenon, Colonel Takeda announced grimly. Complete disruption of standard communication channels. Even Krell, standing motionless before the main display, seemed affected by the sight. 3 days into their uneasy alliance, the Krelaxian had provided invaluable intelligence on Titan capabilities, but this was beyond even his experience. No Krelaxian has ever seen a Titan vessel this close, he admitted, his normally modulated voice carrying an undercurrent of awe. They normally remain beyond the system boundary, directing operations remotely. As panic threatened to unravel their fragile alliance, Dr. Okonkwo burst into the command center, his eyes wide with excitement rather than fear. "Commander, you need to see this," he insisted, transferring data to the main screen. "I've been analyzing the biological schematics Krell provided about the Titans." The display filled with intricate diagrams of Titan physiology, strange, attenuated forms barely recognizable as once biological entities. "They've engineered themselves for perfect integration with their technology," he explained, highlighting specific sections. "Over millennia, they've prioritized neural and sensory enhancements at the expense of physical capability." Okonkwo zoomed in on a particular section. "Their bodies have atrophied to support expanded neural capacity. Their musculature is virtually non-existent. Their digestive systems have been replaced by synthetic nutrient processing." "What are you saying?" Chen asked, beginning to understand. "They're functionally helpless without their systems," Okonkwo concluded. "They've become so dependent on their technology that they've engineered out their physical resilience completely." Krell moved closer to the display, all 4 eyes focusing intently. This aligns with ancient Krelaxian texts. The Titans were once biological entities who ascended through progressive self-modification. They sacrificed physical adaptability for technological perfection, Eliza Wright realized, her linguistic background helping her connect cultural and biological implications. Chen felt the first stirring of genuine hope. They would never anticipate a direct physical threat because no species has ever gotten close enough to pose one. "How does this help us?" Takeda asked pragmatically. "We still can't approach their vessel." Krell turned to the humans. "The Titan command structure will now request a formal report from General Vrax. Standard protocol includes a physical emissary transported to their vessel. They want a representative to report in person," Chen clarified. "Correct. A Krelaxian officer with sufficient authority. The Titans prefer direct neural interface for significant communications." The implications settled over the room as Chen studied the schematics again. "So they'll bring a Krelaxian onto their ship. Could they bring more than one?" "A small delegation would be permitted for a first contact scenario," Krell confirmed. "And if that delegation included disguised humans?" Chen pressed. Krell's upper eyes narrowed. "The Krelaxian equivalent of thoughtful consideration. Their automated systems scan for Krelaxian biology. They have no protocols for detecting concealed secondary species. It has never been necessary." The most audacious plan yet began to form. While the Titans expected resistance from below, they would never anticipate an attack from within. Using modified Krelaxian shuttles with experimental cloaking technology from Krell's faction, a small infiltration team might penetrate the impenetrable. "This is beyond high risk," Takeda warned. "It's practically a suicide mission." "Which is precisely why it might succeed," Chen countered. "The Titans calculate every outcome, every probability. But they've never encountered human illogic, our willingness to sacrifice everything against impossible odds." Within hours, a joint human Krelaxian team began preparations. Chen would lead, with Okonkwo, Raj Patel, Eliza Wright, and Krell forming the core infiltration unit. As they prepared their equipment, a hybrid of Krelaxian technology and human ingenuity. Chen addressed her team with stark honesty. The biggest advantage we have is that the Titans believe their victory is inevitable. They cannot conceive of failure against beings they consider insignificant. She looked at each member in turn. We need to prove them wrong, not just for Earth, but for every world they've conquered. As the Titan vessel moved into Earth orbit, eclipsing the Sun over the Pacific Ocean, the infiltration team boarded their modified shuttle. The Resistance's last, desperate hope rested with a handful of humans and a Kralaxian defector. An alliance the Titans could never have calculated in their millennia of conquest. Reality itself seemed distorted aboard the Titan vessel. Chen led her team through corridors that defied conventional physics, passages that curved impossibly, chambers that appeared larger inside than their external dimensions should allow. The infiltration team moved with practiced precision, their Kralaxian disguises holding under the automated scans. The neural interface chamber lies 2 sections ahead, Krell whispered, his massive form providing cover for the humans. The Titans will expect me to present myself there with General Vrax's report. They had seized their opportunity when the actual delegation from Vrax was delayed by resistance activity. Krell, with his command code still active, had been able to insert their team into the transport protocol. Remember, Chen reminded them, we have one chance at this. Once we reach the central nexus, Dr. Okonkwo will deploy the modified Banshee device and Eliza will attempt to access their systems. What they encountered in the neural interface chamber exceeded even Krell's descriptions. The Titans themselves, pale, atrophied beings with enormously developed craniums, floated in suspension fields. Their withered bodies, barely 4 feet tall, seemed almost childlike in their frailty. Yet the massive brains housed within those craniums had calculated the conquest of thousands of worlds. They're even more physically degraded than the schematic suggested, Okonkwo whispered in astonishment. As the team concealed themselves in the chamber's periphery, Krell approached the interface terminal as expected. The nearest Titan oriented toward him, its massive eyes blinking with cold intelligence. Subdivision Commander Krell. It communicated directly into their minds, its telepathic voice emotionless yet overwhelming. You are not the designated emissary. Explain deviation from protocol. Before Krell could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The Titans had detected the anomaly, not through their automated scans, but through direct neural observation. Infiltration detected, the telepathic voice announced. Unknown biological entities present. Security protocols activated. Advanced defense systems emerged from the chamber walls. Technologies beyond human comprehension targeting the intruders with unerring precision. Now, Chen ordered as their cover disintegrated. The team scattered according to their practiced maneuvers. Raj used his parkour skills to reach an elevated control node while Chen and Krell provided covering fire with hybrid weapons developed from their alliance. Okonkwo rushed to deploy the modified Banshee device, their primary hope for incapacitating the Titans. It's not working, he shouted as the device activated with no apparent effect on the floating entities. They've adapted their neural pathways against acoustic disruption. The team found themselves cornered, security drones advancing from all sides. Despite their preparations, the Titans had calculated countermeasures for every approach. Then Eliza, who had been frantically studying the control interfaces, made a discovery that changed everything. Their command language, she exclaimed. It has a fundamental flaw. While the Titans possessed intelligence far beyond human comprehension, their communication protocols revealed a crucial vulnerability. Having evolved beyond emotion, their language lacked conditional processing for concepts like sacrifice and acceptable loss, the very essence of human resistance. They can't process illogical choices, Eliza realized. Their systems can't calculate responses to decisions that prioritize others over self-preservation. Understanding bloomed in Chen's mind. We need to do something they can't predict, something their logic can't process. The team implemented a desperate gambit. Instead of trying to escape the security perimeter, They charged directly at the Titans themselves. This apparent suicide run confounded the automated defense systems, which had no protocols for such irrational behavior. In the chaos, Eliza and Krell frantically recoded their virus using this insight, exploiting the gaps in Titan logical processing. As security drones closed in, Chen watched the countdown, prepared to die for Earth, when suddenly the chamber lights flickered. Throughout the massive vessel, systems began shutting down as the virus exploited the Titan's inability to process human sacrifice algorithms. The suspension fields faltered momentarily, revealing the utter helplessness of the physically atrophied conquerors without their technology. "It's working," Okonkwo shouted as control panels throughout the chamber went dark. For the first time in millennia, the Titans experienced something they thought impossible: defeat. Without their systems, they could not maintain neural control over their empire. Throughout the galaxy, subjugated species received the same unexpected message: central control compromised. The team fought their way back to their transport vessel as the Titan ship systems fell into disarray. The cost was high. Raj sustained critical injuries protecting Eliza from security protocols. But the mission succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. As they escaped the massive vessel, Chen received confirmation from Earth. Kralaxian forces worldwide were in confusion, their command structure shattered by the disruption of Titan control. "We've given them something they've never faced before," Chen told her team as they watched the Titan vessel drift powerless in Earth orbit, a problem they can't solve with pure logic. In the days that followed, as humans and Krell's Kralaxian faction began rebuilding together, Chen stood at the window of the former alien headquarters, watching children play in the streets below. "The shadows of giants are receding," she observed quietly, "and we're stepping into the light." Across the galaxy, the message spread from world to world. The Titans had fallen, defeated not by superior technology or strength, but by the unpredictable courage of a species they had deemed insignificant. Humanity had proven that true strength lies not in size or technology, but in adaptability, cooperation, and the will to fight for a future worth having, even against impossible odds.